If money is a motivation, then fuck you. All these money people, Money Mayweather, Money McGregor, I see they're trying to do an angle or whatever. People buy it. The worship of money in our society is so deep. But just because that's the easiest way to keep people's attention or entertain them, doesn't mean that's the right way. Over the next 2 months, Ronda's quote is gonna start looking straight up fucking prophetic. Speculation over the split. How much is Conor making? How much is Floyd getting? What's the UFC's take? We're gonna see unprecedented, extravagant displays of wealth. Flashy cars, expensive clothes, Floyd's harem of gold-digging prostitutes, and all the other luxuries you'd expect from two brash millionaire showmen. Before finally, the real question on every combat sports fan's mind gets answered. Who truly has the better man bag? Oh, we've seen Conor killing the man bag game, but then boom, out of nowhere, Floyd hits us with a man bag full of cash. Out fucking standing. Bravo, I'm on the edge of my seat already. But when the 2-month rolling comedy circus and media feeding frenzy is over, we are gonna see a fight. And the big question is, does Conor McGregor actually have a chance?
It's like saying, Michael Phelps versus LeBron James, who wins? Well, you would say, is it in a swimming pool or a basketball court, right?
That's just stupid. That's like saying, oh, Michael Phelps isn't going to get wet when he jumps in the pool. He's going to get wet.
This shit is just hilarious. I'm not gonna get into the whole abstract analogy thing. It's not a fucking fisherman versus an astronaut. This is not a spelling contest between a race car driver and a giraffe. We know what this is. This is an incredibly high-level boxer versus a top pound-for-pound mixed martial artist. It's Floyd's domain, and he's a master of the craft. Conor's chances gotta be slim here. But there are a number of X factors getting thrown around that may work to his advantage. The first one, which Conor alluded to the very instant he announced the fight, is Floyd's age. In the smaller weight classes, the emphasis is already on speed and reflexes over strength and power. But for such a defensive wizard, that emphasis on reflexes is amplified. And it's also one of the first things to go in fighters. So at 40 years of age, if Floyd is slowing down, he could end up eating shots he normally wouldn't. But Floyd is such a mastermind that he's accumulated shockingly little damage over the course of his long career. If any fighter ever had the style to mitigate the effects of a punishing sport and stop Father Time in his tracks, it's Floyd Mayweather. And that is already evident in the fact that he was owning young, hungry monsters like Canelo with ease deep into his 30s. He hasn't appeared to slow down yet, and he takes care of himself year-round. So I really don't expect him to suddenly come in looking like an old man against McGregor. Another factor is ring rust. Will it affect Floyd on his return? On this subject and before his own triumphant return, Cruz commented, "I think you can work it completely out of your system, as long as you're in training camp and training correctly." Yves Edwards stated, "I've never experienced it, and I've had a year off, 10 months off, and 11 months off in my career." And Floyd himself demonstrated the ability to train for it when he returned from a similar layoff and put on an absolute clinic against Marquez. And what is ring rust anyway? You've been out for a while, so you gotta shake the cobwebs off. Get back into the groove, find your rhythm in the ring again. Well, Floyd's going up against a boxing ring virgin. So even if he has ring rust, surely he's gonna be by far the more comfortable fighter right out the gate. I just don't see the layoff being a decisive factor in a fight. One of the more interesting ideas getting bandied about is that Conor might throw something unconventional, something awkward that Floyd's not prepared for. I've seen this idea shredded all over the internet. A lot of people saying that if a technique was effective, boxers would use it. Or if there was an exploitable hole in Floyd's game, one of the many great boxers and brilliant tactical minds would have already found it. Now, we've seen the element of surprise catch a fighter early before. When Jones opened with that wicked flying knee against Shogun, the rest of the fight was a mere formality. More appropriately, though, in boxing, I'm reminded of the opening round of Ali Foreman.
Foreman dances now. Moves Ali with a right hand lead again. Has Foreman slightly confused with that right hand lead, which I haven't seen too many times before.
A right hand lead, which means that you throw your right without countering You throw it first. You throw it like a jab, but you throw it like there. That has to travel that extra distance across the shoulders. Professionals will very rarely use a right-hand lead because it's a terribly dangerous punch to throw since you are open to a counter with a left hook. And fighters, since they work in milliseconds, can see a right coming much faster than a jab. Nobody had thrown a right-hand lead at Foreman in 2 years. And in training camp, none of his sparring partners for $50 a day was going to start throwing right-hand leads at him because it's a great insult to a top professional when you throw a right-hand lead at him. It suggests that he's slow enough that you can hit him with it. And instead, Ali figured out the one punch Foreman's not prepared for is a right-hand lead. He's expecting me to dance. I'm not going to dance. I'm going to hit him with right hand. I'm going to knock him out in the first round.
Now, I'm not saying Conor's going to be in there bouncing around like Ali, and I'm not comparing Floyd's defensive boxing to George Foreman. But if someone was going to throw something awkward, something his sparring partners weren't throwing, who's more likely than a guy coming from a completely different background, who Floyd has a total of 0 seconds professional boxing footage to study, and who was working with coaches outside of the usual boxing masterminds? I mean, overall, those factors are basically McGregor's biggest disadvantages. But in that one sense of throwing something awkward or moving in an unpredictable manner, Conor could be tricky for Floyd early on. But Floyd being a cerebral, risk-averse fighter, he's very likely to start cautiously, feel Conor out, and adapt to his unconventional style. The main area I see Conor exploiting, though, is the trash-talking psychological warfare. All over the internet, you hear people calling this the battle of the shit-talking kings. But this is one area where I really think Conor is head and shoulders above Floyd. Floyd's a great shit-talker in terms of throwing insults and hyping fights. But I think Conor's a much more cerebral trash-talker. He identifies weaknesses, mounts the pressure, annihilates their confidence, and can obliterate opponents before the fight even starts. Now, Floyd doesn't provide Conor with many obvious talking points, but one thing I do expect is that by the time the fight rolls around, Floyd will feel like he's carrying the entire 160-year weight of boxing's prestigious reputation on his shoulders, a considerable weight for a man who constantly speaks about his place in boxing's history books. Mayweather could be feeling like his entire legacy is at stake, and the difference between a win and a loss is the difference between being remembered alongside Sugar Ray Robinson and Muhammad Ali and being laughed at as a joke, who brought shame on his sport and failed to adequately represent boxing in the first legitimate super high-profile opportunity to do so. Floyd might enter the ring under more pressure than any of his previous mega fights, feeling that if he somehow loses, he fails boxing, and his name will forever be the first words uttered in any future MMA versus boxing debates. That is a lot of pressure, and McGregor is totally unique in his ability to apply that pressure in a ruthless fucking manner. That's something I could legitimately see pushing Floyd off his game. On the flip side, Rogan suggested the following.
I'm telling you, there's something about that dude. He's got something going on.
Magic.
He's got a little something extra special, but he would need everything to line up. It would have to be the McGregor, or Mayweather would have to dismiss him as a threat. He'd have to not train hard enough. He'd have to not seriously consider the possibility that Conor connects on him and knocks him out.
Going back to the Rumble in the Jungle, the media completely wrote Ali off. The time may have come to say goodbye to Muhammad Ali, because very honestly, I don't think he can beat George Foreman. Ali will be out in the first round. George could hurt him badly. Foreman bought into this idea of a mismatch. People telling me, there's never been a puncher like you, George. All those compliments. I started eating them. I'm gonna fight Muhammad Ali. He's the least of all these guys. I'm not nervous. All of us had one gigantic ego. All because I had mopped the floor with everyone. Never studied one film. Never dissected anything. He was such a good-looking guy. I'm like, I can beat him. Never decided what his strength or weakness was. Complete overconfidence. I wouldn't expect it from Floyd, too much of a professional. But he is facing an 0-0 boxing first-timer. A man who earned his shot not based on his ability to box, but entirely on the basis of his ability to talk. There's a lot on the line, but on paper, the challenge just might not inspire Mayweather to go that extra mile in training. But even if one or a confluence of these factors work in McGregor's favor and throw Floyd off his game, what are Conor's chances? My guess is that they're still pretty remote. And so, when you have a fight like this, so one-sided on paper, with such a monstrous gulf in technical ability and experience, you kind of have to reevaluate what exactly constitutes a victory here. You know, the whole thing kind of reminds me of the first Rocky movie. An undefeated boxing legend has run out of marketable opponents and spots an opportunity to sell a freak show.
Without a ranked contender, what this fight is going to need is a novelty. This is the land of opportunity, right? So Apollo Creed on January 1st gives a local underdog fighter an opportunity. A Snow White underdog, and I'm going to put his face on this poster with me.
The fight practically sells itself.
The media will eat it up. Now, who discovered America? What would be better than to get it on with one of its descendants?
Conor McGregor
meets
Floyd Mayweather.
Sounds like a damn monster movie.
The matchup seems so ridiculous, the media utterly dismissed the challenger.
Conor McGregor has exactly a 0% chance in this fight.
Why did you agree to fight a man who has virtually no chance of winning?
I give him a 1% chance.
Most boxing people that have been around the business think it's a caveman.
I quote a recent sports magazine which said, could be the caveman against the cavalier.
With a caveman fighter, whatever it is, I don't know, man.
The odds are so one-sided, the man himself has to talk his opponent up.
Look, if history proves one thing, American history proves that everybody's got a chance to win. Didn't you guys ever hear of Valley Forge or Bunker Hill?
Apollo.
Oh man, I gotta say, Conor McGregor, he's tough. He's a tough competitor. And most guys that Conor McGregor, every time he go out there and fight, when he kick ass in a stand-up position.
The whole thing seemed like one big opportunistic cash grab. But on fight night, Rocky went in there and mollywhopped the fuck out of Apollo. Knocked him down in the first round of a bloody back-and-forth rock'em sock'em 15-round war. At one point, Apollo looked like he was fighting for his life. Later, Rocky gets hit with the most ridiculous two-punch combo in movie history. But he showed the heart of a lion. And ultimately lost a drawn-out, razor-close decision. In the end, though, the result didn't matter. Rocky was a people's champ. Now, I don't expect anything half as dramatic. But if McGregor can stay in there for the full 12 rounds, then surely his heart is going to be tested to its limit. Floyd's likely going to make a miss and expend huge energy. So there's more than likely going to be moments like round 4 at an 8 Diaz rematch, where an exhausted McGregor is on survival mode, digging deep just to stay in a fight. If he sees a final bell, I bet his heart and guts will have been on full fucking display. Beyond that, if he can land something significant, hurt Floyd, or even take a round or two, then he'll have done what some boxing legends couldn't, and that will be something. I'm not an MMA fan who's just trying to move the goalposts in McGregor's favor. A loss is a loss here. But under the circumstances, not all losses are equal. And that's the most likely victory I can see for McGregor. A moral victory from an almost certain defeat.